Okay, here's 1MZ-FE. The knock sensors and the heater bypass hose replacement. As you can see, I didn't have to disconnect the fuel at this point, so I'm still hoping I don't have to disconnect the fuel. And the other question I had was whether I had to remove this thing, to get the gasket that I'm using to fit. So I won't know until I pull the intake manifold off. I decided to leave the fuel rails on because it's a pain to get the injectors back in. O-rings always want to misalign and all this other crap. So you can also see where I disconnected the EGR. You can see its gasket right there, which I'm going to take so it doesn't loose. I don't lose it. And that worked out pretty good. Somehow, I guess maybe this support strut wasn't connected. I guess the bolt either rattled out or it had been removed before another repair someone did. One other problem was the PCV valve, which snapped off when I pulled the hose on it. That's right here, the orifice for it. The rubber grommet, it can be gotten, and I'm going to get a rubber grommet and a new PCV valve when I do that. But here you can see the top of the PCV valve right here. I did write and tag a few vacuum hoses just to make sure they went back in the right locations, make it a little easier. So you can see the plenum is tied off in the position it's at right now. It's tied off to the hood strut. So I didn't have to disconnect a lot of things, which would have made reassembly a little bit more difficult. One thing I did was I got these containers, and I made a code. So like 1A is a mapped code to 1A is the EGR nuts, etc. So hopefully that helps when I reassemble. One thing about the PCV valve that may be interesting is there was nothing to grab onto to pull the broken part of the PCV valve and the grommet out. So I use this poker that's in a C-shaped, and got it hot with a torch. And when I inserted it, so it melted the plastic all the way down, and that way I was able not to lose it, because then I kind of whittled away at the plastic with a small flat screwdriver and got it to pop out. What was the bottom of the grommet was left inside, but I was able to get it with a pair of forceps, which worked. Okay, I do have the battery disconnected, and I didn't relieve the fuel pressure, which to relieve the fuel pressure I know is to you run the car and then pull the EFI fuse, electronic fuel injection fuse, and let the car die. That'll relieve the fuel pressure, but I don't think I need to do that because I'm not going to disconnect it. This rubber connector broke off, so I had to order a new hose. It was $16 on Amazon, $17, and coming in 2 days. I did use a repair manual from online, and it shows here the sequence of removing the intake bolts, which have to be done in sequence to avoid warping the intake. have the intake manifold tied off to just below the plenum, so it's out of the way. So now I can have access to the knock sensors and the bypass hose right there, you can see. And I did not have to disconnect the gas lines and some other lines I left connected. And then I can see without the bypass hose, it's pretty corroded on the filler neck assembly. And there, it's pretty clean on that side, but this side's pretty corroded, so I'm going to clean it off. Okay, so here we have the new bypass hose and the gaskets installed. Cleaned up the rough edges on the openings, and this is a new used radiator fill pipe. The old one was all corroded. This one fits. This was perfectly clean. So we got it back together. No leaks. No rough idle, pretty smooth. When you hook the battery back up, it has to go through all the monitor settings again to make it emission ready.